Thank you for joining us for the CFP Board's Business Update webinar. I'm Mary Beth Franklin, and I'm pleased to be the moderator for today's event. For those of you who may not know me, I'm a contributing editor with InvestmentNews. I specialize in retirement income planning, particularly Social Security claiming strategies, and I'm pleased to be a candidate for CFP certification, having passed the CFP exam in November 2013. Today we'll hear updates from the latest Board of Directors meeting. We'll take a look at the CFP Board's overarching outcomes with its strategic plan focused on awareness, growth, recognition and regulation, and authority, or as we like to call it here, AGRA. We'll review some recent certification requirement updates, including the results of the latest job analysis study and the new exam format. And we'll also be addressing questions from you. We've received a number of questions in advance of today's program, and we'll take the time to answer those questions and other questions that come in during the live event. Please send us your questions. But before we get started, I wanted to cover a few technical details about this event. If you run into issues with the audio for this presentation, or if it seems like the slides are out of sync, try refreshing your webinar console. To do that on your PC, press F5. If you're using a Mac, press Command-R. You'll also see a question and answer function on your screen that you can use at any time during the program to submit questions to us. We'll try to address as many questions as possible during a Q&A session at the end of this program. And if we don't get to your question today during the broadcast, the CFP Board will follow up to provide you with an answer. We've got a lot of good information to share with you today, and we intend to leave plenty of time at the end to answer your questions. Now today, joining me at today's panel is Rich Rojeck, 2015 Chair of the Board of Directors, Joe Votava, 2015 Chair-elect of the Board of Directors, and Kevin Keller, CFP Board CEO. Thank you all for joining us today. We're broadcasting live from the CFP Board's headquarters in Washington, D.C., and boy, is it cold here today, where the Board of Directors have just finished up their latest meeting. Rich, what updates can you share about the meeting?
Mary Beth, we met the past few days for our first in-person meeting of 2015. This was the first meeting for 5 CFP professionals who were elected to the board last year to join us this year in 2015. Joining the board were Jeff Farah of FDG Group, a UBS advisory company in Stamford, Connecticut, Charles Fitzgerald III, otherwise known as Charlie Fitzgerald of Moisant Fitzgerald and Tamayo, LLC in Maitland, Florida, Peggy Rulin of Boudros, Rulin & Rowe in Columbus, Ohio, Richard Solomon of BOK Financial in Oberlin, Kansas, and Neil Solomon of Wealth Pro, LLC in Gloversville, New York. We're excited to have this distinguished group of individuals join our board. Each brings a unique set of perspectives and experiences that will help CFP Board advance its mission. During this week's meeting, we also met with FPA's board president, Ed Jertson, and CEO, Lauren Shadle. We work closely with FPA on a number of issues, and all of us at CFP Board appreciate FPA's work to support CFP professionals, as well as their partnership as part of the Financial Planning Coalition. FPA has strong programming that supports the work of CFP professionals, including an annual conference that is the largest gathering of CFP professionals. Our meeting this week was an important opportunity for the board to get a chance to engage with FPA's leadership face-to-face. We also spent time at this week's meeting to look at issues around the fiduciary standard, including the recent proposal by the Department of Labor to update the definition of fiduciary advisor under ERISA. Last week, I think as most of our listeners know, the White House announced that the Department of Labor's rule proposed a proposal to amend the definition of fiduciary advisor under ERISA has been submitted to the OMB for review. CFP Board has not taken a position on the actual rule being proposed by the DOL because it has not been made public. but we support the Labor Department moving forward to issue a rule to update its 40-some-odd-year-old definition of fiduciary under the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974, or otherwise known as ERISA, of course. Just some thoughts relative to this. 40 years ago, 401ks did not even exist, and IRAs were an emerging retirement tool that had very little in the way of total retirement assets. In contrast, today, more than 40 million American families collectively have savings of more than $7 trillion in IRAs, much of it rollover monies. We have consistently advocated for fiduciary-level financial advice, and we require our CFP professionals to provide advice under our fiduciary standard when providing financial planning services as well as implementation following those services. There are some prominent voices we acknowledge out there that don't want the DOL to make any changes. But we can look to our own experience in putting in place the fiduciary standard for financial planning services back in 2008. And at that time, we heard similar concerns from the industry. In fact, firms and CFP professionals have adapted to the fiduciary standard and even embraced the fiduciary standard in their communications with clients. And we have grown the CFP professional community by 30% since instituting a fiduciary standard back in 2008. So we look forward to sharing more with you as the rulemaking process unfolds. Getting back to this week's board meeting, we reviewed the progress of a number of initiatives that are furthering our AGRA goals, which are awareness, growth, recognition, and regulation of financial planners and authority. In 2012, CFP Board established these 4 overarching outcomes in order to focus our work over the next several years. So let me just kind of take them one at a time here in a bit more detail. Awareness focuses on awareness of the CFP certification among the public, within the financial services industry, and among policymakers and thought leaders. Growth is the growth in the number of CFP professionals. Recognition and regulation relates to our long-term goals to see financial planners recognized and regulated as a bona fide profession. And then finally, authority is another key way that CFP Board advances its mission to benefit the public. And under our authority goal, we seek to advance the body of knowledge for the financial planning profession and build capacity for the profession. And our goal here is that financial planning is seen as a separate, rigorous discipline supported by academic research for the benefit of the public, professionals, and educators alike. When we adopted AGRA, we resolved to monitor their goals annually and revise them as necessary and appropriate. Last year, the board had a good discussion about the relevance of AGRA and reaffirmed the importance of these 4 overarching goals.
Thanks a lot, Rich. Let's dig into some details on this program. Joe, can you share more about what the CFP Board is doing to achieve the first of the AGRA outcomes, awareness?
Sure, Mary Beth. I'd be happy to do that. Our public awareness campaign to increase the awareness of CFP professionals began back in 2011, and we're going to continue that again in 2015. The campaign is taking a coordinated approach to reach our custom target audience of mass affluent initiators and through a combination of paid advertising and earned media activities. And we continue to be very pleased with the progress here. The campaign includes a mix of advertising on national cable channels, in print publications, online, and on national radio. Last April, the campaign introduced a new DJ TV ad, which I'm sure many of you saw, along with some other creative print and online ads, as well as radio sponsorship messages on NPR. All of the ads take you to the consumer website, letsmakeaplan.org, which encourages visitors to seek out and work with a CFP professional. Now, the campaign's paid advertising is supported by our earned media initiatives. And last year, CFP Board issued 56 press releases, along with media tours and other outreach, which generated over 3.8 billion media impressions through nearly 14,000 placements. Now, the estimated total media value of that is a very impressive $221 million. Now, when the campaign was launched, we were very clear that it needed to be accompanied with clear measurements of success, and we have been measuring the campaign's progress through annual brand tracking studies. Our 2013 brand tracking study showed that the campaign had far exceeded our initial expectations. In fact, we reached our 4-year goal for increased awareness in only 2 years. And last year, the campaign continued to exceed expectations. As you can see here, our 2014 brand tracking study showed a 6 percentage point increase over 2013 for unaided awareness amongst our target market of mass affluent initiators. So that means that since the campaign began in 2011, we've seen unaided awareness grow from 17% to 30% among our target audience. We also saw continued growth in unaided awareness among the broader mass affluent audience, with a 2 percentage point increase. And our brand tracking study also found that in addition to increased awareness, the CFP certification brand is strengthening among consumers as well. Now, there were significant increases measured in people's attitudes about what the CFP certification means, especially with regard to things like relevance, the quality, the trust, and consideration of using a CFP certificate. These qualities are significant, especially when we think about our overall objective, which is to raise the awareness of, preference for, and the intent to use a CFP professional. Now, last month, new print and online ads were released to support the DJ TV commercial. And these ads feature people who choose hobbies that may put them in extreme danger. And while they may do that for fun, the ads make clear they do not take the same approach with their finances. Here we have a motocross rider hitting a jump with a headline that reads, "Work with someone who isn't a CFP pro? What do I look like, a lunatic?" The extreme sports theme is also carried through to a set of new online banner ads. And here are the stills from some of the new online banner ads called The Shark Diver. It shows a scuba diver in what looks like some dangerous waters with sharks swimming around. And the ad reads, "Work with someone who's not a CFP pro? I'd have to be crazy." Don't leave your finances to just anyone. Work with the highest standard, a CFP professional, and find a CFP pro near you. The online ads end with an interactive feature that allows the viewer to enter a zip code and be taken directly to the Find a CFP Professional search tool on letsmakeaplan.org with their selected zip code pre-filled.
Well, thanks, Joe. As the mother of a real-life DJ, I was thrilled to see those first ads. And he's got some crazy hobbies, too, including skateboarding, so I'll be happy to see the next group of ads. Speaking of which, so what's the media plan for 2015? Are you advertising the same publications and channels that you used in recent years, or are you taking a new approach with the new ads?
Well, Mary Beth, each year the campaign's media strategy gets updated based on what performed well and what didn't work so well. So the media plan for 2015 has more of a focus on broadcast, with TV and radio this year in the spring and the fall. The DJ ad is running on TV on national cable networks like Fox News, MSNBC, National Geographic, and AMC. For radio, we have been messaging on ESPN Radio as well as NPR. The online placements will include many of the channels from the past years, with new additions like Food and Wine, Fortune, and The Atlantic. For the print ads, there are familiar publications like The Atlantic, Kiplinger's, and Travel and Leisure, as well as some new titles like More Magazine, which targets high-end women, and the Robb Report and Financial Times, which target higher-end investors. We hope you all keep an eye out for our ads from our campaign and that you consider how you can help us extend the campaign's reach in your community. You know, many times we get questions about, can we use these tools? How can we use these on a local level? So the Public Awareness Campaign Toolkit on our website has materials designed for CFP professionals to use on their websites and with their business materials. There you'll find customizable versions of the print ads and instructions for using campaign elements on your own websites. You can also take a look at the 2015 advertising schedule if you'd like to dovetail your work along with the national media approach. And during the run of the TV ads from now through mid-April and then again in October, you'll also find weekly TV programming schedules that list the channels and times of the show on the TV ads as expected to run during those times. Work is ongoing to develop new Toolkit materials to help CFP professionals, so plan on taking a look at the Toolkit resources now and then again throughout the year.
Well, thanks, Joe. As a former editor at Kiplinger's magazine, I think that's a great choice, and as an avid reader of more magazines. But I think if I could put in my 2 cents, if you could just get Jon Stewart to take a look at this, we'd be going.
Before he retires.
Right. And speaking of retiring and all the important things that consumers need to know, Kevin, there's been some changes related to parts of the CFP certification requirements, some of which are near and dear to my heart, that were announced or implemented within the past year. Can you fill us in on what changes are and what prompted the changes and how the changes are going to be implemented?
Sure, Mary Beth. You know, CFP Board regularly takes a look at our certification requirements in light of the evolving profession, and we've made several updates to the certification requirements over the last year. Let me start off with one that I think has probably the most broad-ranging impact, and that is the results of our latest job task analysis study. Approximately every 5 years or so, we conduct a job task analysis for the practice of financial planning. I like to refer to it as the largest study on the practice of financial planning in the U.S. This study impacts everything from our educational curriculum, that is, what is actually taught in the educational programs that prepare you to sit for the exam, but it also directly impacts the examination itself and how we shape the actual content of that exam. It will also have an impact on our continuing education subjects that are eligible for CE credit. The structure and the comprehensive nature of this research help us to further define the profession's body of knowledge, and it ensures that we get a thorough understanding of the issues facing CFP professionals and their clients every day. You know, one of the things, Mary Beth, that people frequently say, you know, this emerging topic should be on the exam. And quite candidly, you know, we hear that a lot, and yet the exam has to actually focus on what's happening in practice now. So we're always aware of that, and we work very hard to try to make sure that we're testing emerging issues, and as they come more into the forefront, we're sure to include those as we go forward. You know, the concept of job task analysis, it's, as I said, a very rigorous process. It's based on the best practices for high-stakes examinations like the CFP certification. It's also required by our accrediting standards from the National Commission for Certifying Agencies. In 1995, I guess 20 years ago, our certification was the first non-healthcare examination to be accredited by NCCA. The job task analysis process begins with research involving subject matter experts. We dub it in-house the Big Thinker Group. We put together 15 or 20 people, and we ask them about what are the topics that are most important or emerging that we should be sure that we actually test on the job task analysis. More than 3,700 CFP professionals completed the survey, and we appreciate all of those who did so. The results from the validation survey are then used to develop the test specifications for the exam with updates to our list of job task domains and our principal topics. The results of this latest analysis revealed 5 emerging areas. Those include, and probably not surprisingly, retirement savings and income planning. It clearly that has always been a part of the exam, but just an increased emphasis on retirement savings and income planning, especially on the income planning side. Education planning has additional emphasis with what now, Mary Beth? $1.2 trillion of debt, of student loan debt.
Exactly, and lots of 529 plans out there for parents.
An increased emphasis on integrated financial planning, Healthcare was a topic that had always been included, but again showed increased emphasis by planners across the country, and then debt management. These areas were added, as I said, or gained knowledge in our updated list of principal topics. What you see here is a representation of how all of the outcomes of our job task analysis come together. Financial planning integrates many elements, and this infographic illustrates that nicely. You have the 8 principal knowledge topics in the center of the wheel, addressed through the job task domains and applied to individual client situations that involve a number of contextual variables across the bottom. These contextual variables are an important new feature to our job task analysis results. They emphasize the holistic and the integrated aspect of financial planning and the need to consider variables that are more about the context of a situation as opposed to just that specific knowledge or task. There are variations in family status, net worth, income level, life or professional stage, or other circumstances that can have a major impact on how financial planning topics are addressed and applied to the individual situation. These contextual variables, if you will, highlight these variations and will be used as part of the content development for the CFP certification examination and other case-based scenarios. People are asking, what is the timeline for the new job task analysis? This timeline here takes us into 2016. We recently have held webinars with our registered programs and continuing education sponsors to review the new list and go over the topics for our continuing education standards. The expanded list of principal knowledge topics will be eligible for CE credit beginning in January of 2016. But I would encourage any of our CE providers, and we have more than 1,000 of them now in the U.S., if you have a topic or you want to talk to somebody here at CFP Board about whether or not a specific topic might be eligible, we want to approve your program, so give us a call. Shar Gargucci, CFP, is our manager that oversees that program, and if you'd like to have a consultation, give Shar a call, and we'd be happy to talk with you. The new list will be first tested. This is what people really want to know. When will the new items be on the test? And that first test will be in March of 2016. Exam candidates may notice some questions based on the expanded list, though, as early as July of this year. If you'd like to review the list more closely or review the implementation timeline, you can visit our website, cfp.net/JTA2015 for job task analysis. cfp.net/JTA2015. There are 4 other recent updates to the certification requirements that I want to address briefly. First of all is the status of our ongoing CE Quality Improvement Initiative. We would also like to talk about an update on the transition to computer-based testing, the introduction of an alternative Capstone course requirement, and 4th, the expansion of the CE requirement. Mary Beth, I went through a lot. Do you have any questions about where we are and what we've gone through with the job analysis?
No, I think it's been comprehensive, and it's important that you're staying up to date. I'm also thrilled that you're inviting educators to offer new topics to this ever-expanding financial planning profession.
Absolutely. Well, we think it's important, and a lot of times I think there's a misconception there that if it's not on the exact list, that it won't be approved. And again, we want to approve topics. So if you have something that you think is more progressive or maybe not fully addressed there yet, give us a call at CFP Board. So let's talk about the CE quality improvement process. We're in the first phase of a multi-year initiative that the board has directed the staff to implement. We heard from CE professionals that they wanted higher quality CE, and we're working with our sponsors, more than 1,000 of them, to achieve that. The first phase of the initiatives introduces several updates to the requirements for CE programs registered with CFP Board. The Find a CE program tool on the website is being updated to provide 2 additional types of information that will be helpful to those of you who are certified and need CE credit. The first is the program's level of complexity, either an overview, intermediate, or advanced. And so sometimes that is an important consideration. And the second is the program's stated learning objectives. In other words, what will a participant in the program actually learn? And so we think that'll be an important component as well. We'll notify CFP professionals when these new features go live on our website, and we appreciate the cooperation of our CE sponsors with implementing these and the future initiatives to help improve the quality of CE.
Well, I'm personally excited about that, as I often give seminars that
you are a bit
CE credits, but I understand I have several CE credits of my own to catch up on as a candidate.
Absolutely.
I'll make sure I use that tool.
You know, just real briefly, I want to talk about this transition to computer-based testing. That transition was complete in November of 2014. It probably sounds, well, you know, like an easy task, but it's not. First of all, you need more questions because it's a 5-day testing window, and we don't have the same questions on the test every time. So there have to be more questions. So we have to write more questions. And it is a big initiative to prepare the item bank, as we call it, the number of questions or the repository of questions to have enough.
Can I jump in here?
Absolutely.
I think it is welcome and long overdue to have a computer-based test, because having gone through one of the last paper-based
waiting, you love
in
waiting.
November 2013. No, the biggest fear I had was coming up with the answers on my scratch pad and then transferring it to the correct bubble. And if you got one line off,
one bubble off,
the whole thing. Whole new meaning to a financial bubble.
Yeah, indeed. Well, the pass rate on that first computer-based test was 65.7, which was within the historical range of the pass rates. In fact, we've had 3 or 4 tests in the last 10 years that were actually higher. I wanted to assure everyone that the computer-based exam retains its rigor and its reliability, even with the new format. Essentially, it's the same group of questions that we've used before, except we threw the easy ones out, because the easy ones everybody gets right. Well, they don't discriminate between who knows the material and who doesn't. So we threw essentially the easy questions out, and then we equate those. We equate the actual examination between the paper and the computer-based test, so that if you could have passed the paper-based test, you'll pass the online test, and if you didn't pass, or you weren't smart enough or weren't prepared enough for the paper-based test, you're not going to pass the computer test.
And a clarification on that: the paper test was a 2-day test.
That's right.
And the online version is a 1-day test.
That's correct. It is. Go ahead.
Having taken it recently, a lot of the candidates said, did this really need to be a 2-day test? It would have been better to do it all at once. So I applaud the fact that it's scaled down.
You know, some people some people think of it as an endurance test. That's typically people who've already passed it. I had one guy who became certified in 1986 who was complaining. But for those of you who know, there was no comprehensive exam in 1986. So
it was a modular by module.
Module by module. So anyhow, the next exam window is coming up later this month, March 26th through 28th. And again, we had over 250 exam sites in this past window, where we used to have 50, and people would have to drive, stay overnight frequently if you weren't in a major city. I want to talk about the alternative Capstone course. In November of last year, the board approved an alternative pathway to completing our financial plan development requirement, which we commonly refer to as the Capstone course. This requirement was added to our education requirements back in 2012. What happened, though, was we have what's known as the challenge status. And the challenge status is effectively those people who are CHFCs or CLUs or CFAs or attorneys can, quote, challenge the education requirement. In other words, they don't have to complete that education requirement. We said you have to take the Capstone course if you're going to sit for the exam.
Which is essentially learning how to write a financial plan.
Well, we thought it was important that before we certify somebody as a certified financial planner, that they demonstrate that they could have actually produce a financial plan. What happened, though, when we put that Capstone course requirement in, the challenge status registrations fell off precipitously. Now, these are people who typically have been working in the profession for a number of years, and so this Capstone course alternative will allow these individuals to submit a financial plan that they have prepared for, and we'll review it by a set of peers. We all have criteria against which to assess that actual plan. And we're working on setting that peer review process up. We've been talking with our friends at NAPFA who have a peer review process that they have in place, and also talking to the education providers because they have to assess the actual plan that's developed in the course. So we'll put in place a plan that's
just a quick question on that, Kevin. Is there going to be some sort of template for people who perhaps haven't prepared a financial plan before, so they follow all the appropriate steps and did all the...
We're actually going to require that you attest that it's an actual plan that you have prepared and presented to a client. If you haven't done that, essentially we're not going to give you a case study and say prepare a plan, because we just think that this is for people who have been planning, and so there'll be a template against which we'll assess the plan. But this has to be a plan that you've actually done. We think that's the right thing. Otherwise, then you should take the Capstone course and do the whole course. And finally, I think the one last thing I want to talk about is the experience requirement expansion. The board in November expanded the type of experience that we will accept toward the experience requirement. Later this year, we'll begin to accept activities that indirectly support the financial planning process. Activities that we'll consider are things like employee benefits administration, financial planning compliance, or journalism focused in the financial planning topics. Experience submissions in these activities will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis.
And Kevin, I think that's the key. I know there's been a lot of pushback, particularly on the journalism. I've been a voyeur in many of those websites, but as you pointed out, it's case by case. Not only does someone have to go through the education requirements, pass the exam, and demonstrate work experience that's at least equivalent. It's not like this is going to be handed out.
Yeah, but can I get one more thing on this? You know, a lot of people think that the only way you get experience is in the personal delivery sitting down, but already we have a number of different ways that you can earn the experience. And so while some people think this is a drastic expansion, you know, we already provide experience for people who are in the direct support, so they're not meeting with clients, but they may be a paraplanner. We provide experience for those who are supervising or for those who are teaching, and so we think this is an appropriate change in the definition.
Well, I agree, and it sounds like you provided some really new pathways and process changes that will really help some people achieve CFP certification. And I know one of the goals that, Rick, I'm going to ask you about is the idea of growth. Can you speak more about what's driving the CFP Board's focus on the overarching outcome of growth?
Sure, Mary Beth. Our discussions have been focused on the concept of growth with integrity. We're not looking at growth for growth's sake, and we're taking approaches to growth that keep a focus on the strength and relevance of the CFP certification for the delivery of personal financial advice. Our goal is to make the CFP certification the must-have for those providing financial advice and those receiving advice. As more consumers become aware of CFP professionals and seek their services, we want to ensure we have enough CFP professionals to meet that demand. We've seen steady growth in our numbers over the years. We've seen an increase, for example, over 30% since Kevin joined the organization as our Chief Executive Officer back in 2007. Yet the total number of CFP professionals is only about 20% of the total number of practicing financial advisors, according to data from Cerulli Associates. And it's no secret that the profession today does not reflect the diversity of the public that we serve. So there are obviously many opportunities and challenges, both, as we look forward to growing a profession with the resources needed to serve the American public. So these include such things as working with our education partners to encourage student enrollment and retention, as well as continued pursuit of CFP certification by these graduates, meaning that upon completion of their program, they sit for the exam and they pursue their experience requirements. A second item would be working with large firms to institutionalize the CFP certification in that firm, meaning to encourage them to support CFP professionals and integrate financial planning into their service delivery models. Building bridges between our education partners and firms to help people establish successful careers in financial planning and continue progress towards CFP certification is another area. For example, this August, our annual CFP Board Registered Program Conference will again include a firms night that will provide networking with firm representatives to explore potential partnerships that will provide support to registered programs and new hires to employers. And our growth-focused initiatives will also include implementing programs that encourage broader diversity among our CFP professionals. For example, our Women's Initiative is a great example and a model of how we're approaching the need to broaden diversity within the profession. Last year, as part of our Women's Initiative, we released a white paper that included the findings of a groundbreaking qualitative and quantitative research effort to better understand why only 23% of our CFP professionals are women. The white paper also included an action plan of steps CFP Board and everyone can take to help us grow the number of women in our profession. By the way, you can download the white paper and learn more about the WIN initiative and sign up to support the initiative at our website, which of course is www.cfp.net/WIN, as in Women's Initiative, WIN. And I want to recognize you, Mary Beth, for participating on our Women's Initiative Council, which was established just last year to advise and assist CFP Board on the development of initiatives to increase the number of women entering the financial planning profession.
Thank you.
We have a lot of good people, both women and men, supporting this initiative. And while this long-term initiative is still in its early phases, we've already seen some important successes. Since its launch in April of last year, CFP Board's Women's Initiative has generated over 351 media placements, equating to over 183 million media impressions with an estimated total media value of nearly $11 million. Last year also provided some high-profile opportunities to share the WIN message, including speaking engagements at the Women's Advisor Forum Series, the Schwab Impact Conference, and the Women in Insurance and Financial Services Conference. We'll be participating in similar events again this year. We are pleased that to date, nearly 450 people have signed up to support the initiative, and we have 117 CFP professionals who have agreed to serve as WIN advocates. They will use our WIN Advocate Toolkit to communicate to their networks why financial planning is a great career for women. In 2015, CFP Board will be implementing additional initiatives outlined in the white paper, including developing what we're calling Faces of Women CFP Professionals awareness campaign and partnering with selected firms on pilot projects to promote gender diversity and professional development. If you, the listener, are interested in participating in our Women's Initiative, please visit our website, again, www.cfp.net/WIN, and complete a short form indicating your interest. We also hope you will support our growing profession by helping us get the word out about the new CFP Board Career Center, about which we're very excited. Gaining relevant professional experience is part of the CFP certification process that has historically been very challenging for some folks. The new Career Center provides future CFP professionals with the internship and job opportunities that can contribute to their professional development and help them continue their path towards certification. It serves as the destination for those interested in a career as a financial planner, the CFP certification, and job and internship opportunities. And it provides a benefit for the public as well as employers and job seekers, as it helps bridge the gap between firms seeking talent and those looking to enter the profession or further their careers. By the way, Mary Beth, there are currently 201 job postings from 168 employers on the site. We've had postings from 46 states, I might add, as well as postings that are nationwide and not location specific. Please check out the new Career Center and help us to spread the word to your colleagues and acquaintances who may be looking for a new job or seeking new talent for their firms. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to our manager of the Career Center, Lisa Andrews, whose information is also on the screen that you're viewing.
Thank you, Rich. We've certainly covered a lot of material this afternoon. So now let's turn the program over to the questions that our listeners have already submitted. And please, if you have a question, just put it in the chat box there. Let's start with Harry. Harry asks, is the campaign making a difference in recognition? What else is in the works?
Okay, so I'm happy to handle that one. The campaign is definitely making a difference, as we already pointed out. We've seen a 13 percentage point increase in unaided awareness, meaning the person being polled wasn't prompted on potential responses, but was able to identify CFP as a financial planning credential. And that's amongst the target audience that we talked about, the mass affluent initiators. And that's since the campaign started in 2011. And we saw a remarkable 6 percentage point increase just between the year 2013 to 2014 to a total now of 30%. So that's close to 1 in 3 individuals polled can identify CFP on an unaided basis. We discussed the 2015 plans earlier for the public awareness campaign in detail. You should also know that the campaign is also generating interest in financial planning and CFP certification as a career. We have robust initiatives underway to reach the next generation of CFP professionals, including direct marketing, as well as partnerships with our academic partners, meaning the registered programs throughout the country, and firms that employ CFP professionals. We know that the younger generation really wants to see a clear career path and real job opportunities before they make a firm decision to pursue a career or CFP certification. And we're excited about the new Career Center in that respect, and the opportunities and career path resources that it will make available alongside information about the value of CFP certification.
Well, Rich, I think this Career Center is so valuable because, one, we know it's a graying profession. We need new blood, and there's lots of young potential professionals there. If we could just pull it together, I think that's going to be the lifeblood of financial planning. But, Kevin, I've got a follow-up question for you. Andrew asks, how do you define mass affluent and mass affluent initiators?
Sure, I think that's a great question, Mary Beth. First of all, the mass affluent is essentially the generally accepted definition, I think, that we typically use. That's a person who has investable assets of $100,000 to $1 million. And we put an age bracket on that, not that it is necessary, but it helps us in the media buy from 35 to 64. The mass affluent initiator, though, is it's a proprietary target market, if you will. It includes the traditional mass affluent, so $100,000 to $1 million, 35 to 64, household income over $125,000. But then it includes psychographics. And when you talk to advisors, they usually can tell you within the first 5 minutes of meeting with a prospective client if somebody's going to be a good client. These are people who trust experts. They're aspiring to get ahead. They're willing to pay more for quality. They relish being self-reliant. Typically, being well-educated is important. They trust others to provide advice. And we've quantified that in a way that allows our media buyers to be very targeted so that we can spend the money where it's most likely to be seen or heard by those people who are the best prospective customers of CFP, clients of CFP professionals.
Great. That was speaks to the list of magazines, et cetera, that you have targeted for these. Now, I'm going to throw another question to you, Kevin. This came in from Michael, who said, I've seen the ads on TV. They're very professional. How are the information requests distributed to CFP practitioners throughout the nation when inquiries are made to the CFP board?
Well, Michael, first of all, thank you for the feedback. People feel strongly about them, usually one way or the other. And we're glad to hear you like them. The Find a CFP Professional search tool on the website includes a contact function that allows consumers to select and contact individual professionals directly through the search tool, so the distribution is self-selected by the actual consumer or visitor to the website. Our search tool sends the CFP professional an email with the consumer's contact information and a message that they've entered in the tool. If you receive one of these contact requests, we'd urge you to obviously follow up promptly and find out where they found the information. We also appreciate if you let us know when one of these contact requests turns into a new client. We'd like to hear that. We hear it anecdotally, but it's helpful for us to stay in the know.
Well, another follow-up there for you, Kevin, from a CFP practitioner, Nancy, just submitted a question. She said, I just submitted my zip code in the, quote, Find a CFP portal, and my name didn't show up. I've paid my dues. I've met the CE requirement. What gives?
Well, sometimes there could be a couple of different things. You have to formally opt in to the search tool. And so I would encourage Nancy, as we speak, to call our office, talk with one of our stakeholder services reps. But you have to indicate on your profile that you're accepting new clients, that you're a practitioner. And sometimes people might live and work in a different zip code, and we want to make sure that we've got the right zip code. So please give us a call. We have 8 dedicated people standing by to help CFP certificants with these and other questions. We get over 60,000 inbound phone calls a year and over 65,000 inbound emails, and we try to answer each and one of those promptly and accurately and correctly. So have Nancy give us a call.
Wow, I'm glad it's you and not me. Speaking of feedback, we've had a couple comments and questions that reflect a range of views of the CFP Board's public awareness advertising. Let me read a few of these and then ask you, Kevin, to share your response. Greg writes, great job on the CFP advertising, short and edgy. Don't let that go to your head, because Henry writes, I hate the commercial highlighting a fake financial planner meeting with the client. This narrative feeds into the public skepticism of beware of financial people. The campaign should not leave a negative connotation in people's minds. And Howard writes, isn't it time for us to have a new ad running? The DJ ad is tired and annoying at this point. Again, I'm the mother of a DJ. The message I'd like to see shouldn't be about what a CFP isn't, but what a CFP is. That needs to come out of the message in a better form. So, Kevin, your response.
Well, I appreciate the feedback from Greg and Henry and Howard and everybody we talked to. Rich and I were on the road last month talking to CFP certificates in town hall meetings, and we heard a range of different views. And we always appreciate hearing that. But you know what, in the end, I think counts the most is whether or not the advertising is having the impact with the target market. Now, obviously, we care very much about what CFP professionals think about it. We're not trying to portray them in a bad light. What we're actually trying to show is that you should look for the highest standard, because just about anybody out there can call themselves a financial planner, but that you should look for a certified financial planner. Look, our spend or our budget, the $10 million that we spend each year on the public awareness campaign, is less than 0.5% of the money spent just by financial services firms. And so, you know, our communications team, as we put the DJ ad together, sat back and said, if we have two old people walking on the beach at sunset, we will have failed because we won't have cut through the clutter. So, you know, it's a humorous way. Not everybody likes it. I happened to be there the day the commercial was shot, and I will tell you, it is astounding how easy it is to fool people in the right surroundings with the right trappings when they think they're meeting a financial professional. And that's what we're really trying to show. I know that we try to do it in a humorous way, but it was frightening and astounding to be there and see these were not stupid people. There were 12 or 15 different people who came in that day thinking they were meeting with a financial planner, and it was a fraud. It was the equivalent of a big hoax. And they really did think they were meeting with a planner, and were quite surprised to find out otherwise.
And I think what's so frightening is with the aging of the baby boomers into retirement, where they've gotten virtually all of their financial advice in their workplace throughout their careers, through their 401k plans. And now they're coming to retirement and IRA rollovers, and they need advice. And these people deserve to get good advice.
We agree.
So another question for you, Kevin. James writes, I really think the value proposition for what we are paying is diffused or becoming vague. Is it becoming an expensive club membership that we never really get to use? How do you respond to that, Kevin?
Well, gee, I sure hope not. And James, I again thank you for commenting. You know, becoming a CFP professional is a substantial achievement. The CFP marks are the most recognized financial planning credential that is sought out by consumers and firms alike. So the right to display the CFP marks is something that we hope you take value and pride in. In addition to the right to use the marks, maintaining your certification, I think, provides you with access to toolkits available to CFP Board that can help you maintain your CFP certification, help you promote your certification, and help us extend our work to get the word out.
Well, Rich, don't sit back and think you can't sing for your supper here. We've had two somewhat similar audience questions about marketing yourself as a CFP professional. Tim asks, how can I use your marketing efforts to my best advantage? And Benjamin asks, what are some of the best practices for marketing yourself as a CFP professional?
Well, the first thing is that we encourage you to display the CFP marks proudly and mention your CFP certification prominently in your marketing materials and discussions with your prospective and current clients. More and more, we find that consumers are looking specifically for professionals with the CFP certification. If they don't see the CFP marks on your business card or website, they may look for someone else who does. I would also encourage you to take a look at the resources in our Public Awareness Campaign Toolkit. Once again, on the website, there are sample letters that address your qualifications as a CFP certification. You can consider using them to send out to clients and potential clients, or borrowing some of that language for your own website or other marketing materials. The toolkit also contains customizable versions of the print ads in our public awareness campaign, and I understand that work is being done on additional customizable materials that will tie into the messaging of our public awareness campaign.
Rich, here's a question that just came in from Benjamin. saying there seems to be a consistent push to increase the number of CFP professionals. Can you help me understand how the public is benefited through these efforts?
You know, it's interesting that you would ask that question. A couple of years ago during a board meeting, we had kind of a free-flow discussion of what we saw as the issues for the financial planning profession, and it was one of impact. How do we have an impact on the American public? And we used as a comparison other, widely known, well-established professions, law, accounting. And so, for example, there are something like 340,000 CPAs, and certainly they have an impact on society in terms of the services that they deliver. In contrast, and not to diminish the great progress that CFP Board has made, we have 71,000.
71,477.
And one half.
Today.
And that's approximately 20% market share of what we would define as, if you will, our target market, the Cerulli database that's plus or minus 300,000. So while we've come a long way, we have a long ways to go in terms of the growth of the ranks of CFP professionals so that we can have an impact on American society, we can serve more Americans and help them achieve their life goals. So that's really the driving force.
We have one final question, and I want to throw it to both of you, starting with Rich. Mitchell asks, what is the single most important issue facing the board right now, and what are your current activities and plans to address this issue?
Well, I think as board chair, it's we look and we refer to this as our four overarching objectives of awareness, growth, recognition, regulation, being the R, and then authority. So that's the AGRA that we've referred to. And they're all important, but the growth piece of it is the first amongst equals, is probably the most important. So it's the growth in the number of CFP professionals, as I just recently referred. Something that I think that is well known is there has been some litigation which has challenged our very ability or questioned our ability to enforce our standards. It goes to the question of our function as a standard-setting body, and certainly we've dedicated resources to that, and we have every expectation that we will prevail, but certainly that's been part of what we've focused on. But on a go-forward basis, it's continually increasing the number of CFP professionals and increasing the quality that the CFP marks stand for. That would be my take on it. I'll pass it over to Kevin, see what he thinks.
Yeah, the question was, what's the most...
What is the most important issue facing the board, and what do you plan to do?
Yeah, sure. So, there's a new certification every day. I mean, it seems like every day there's a new certification, and we're working very hard on positioning CFP certification as the must-have designation for both providers and seekers of certification, and to make that distinction very clear that, that CFP is the standard for financial planning.
Sounds good. Well, we're just about out of time. Rich, what are your parting thoughts? Anything you'd like to share?
Well, certainly I would like to thank everyone for joining us on today's webinar. And Mary Beth, special thanks to you for contributing to our webinar today and for being part of our Women's Initiative. Again, you've done a great job as moderator today. This July, we'll reach our 30th anniversary of the CFP Board's creation. So that commemorates the transfer of the marks from the College for Financial Planning back in the year 1985. This milestone will provide an opportunity for us to celebrate what we've accomplished and to take a look at what still needs to be done. The steady growth of the CFP professional population over the years speaks to its prestige and relevance within the financial services industry. Yet, as I alluded to before, we still have a lot of work to do, including things like establishing a clear career path for our young financial advisors, although the Career Center has made a significant contribution to that effort. I encourage all of you to consider what role you can play in helping us grow the capacity of the profession, whether it be offering internships to students and those just out of college, or offering encouragement to young planners to stay on their path towards CFP certification, or even just sharing your story of how great a financial planner or a financial planning career can be. And I'd like to challenge everyone listening in today to consider how we can continue the work that remains for our joint efforts to serve the public by building a strong, respected, and growing financial planning profession.
Kevin, any thoughts?
Yes. First of all, Rich, to you and Joe, thank you and the entire board for their vision and the clarity with which you've spoken about what objectives you're looking for the staff to achieve. You know, we have a lot of important initiatives underway, Mary Beth, and I want to encourage everyone to stay connected and get involved in the important work that we do. All of us on CFP Board's leadership appreciate everyone who's taken time to share their talents and support our initiatives. Frequently, people take time away from their business and from their families to be a volunteer at CFP Board. Please stay connected. Let us know what we can do. If you think we've made a mistake, let us know that. Or if you think we've done something right, let us know that. Our mission is one that we cannot achieve without collaboration with a number of volunteers, and we're fortunate as an organization to have such a dedicated and growing volunteer base.
Well, thank you all, Rich, Joe, Kevin, for sharing this update on the CFP Board's work, and to everyone for joining us for today's webinar. A recording of this presentation will be posted to the CFP Board's website within the next week, and CFP Board will follow up with those who asked questions that we did not have time to address during this broadcast. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in.